1 Chronicles, chapter 25. David, together with the commanders of the army, set apart some of the sons of Asaph, Heman and Jeduthun for the ministry of prophesying, accompanied by harps, lyres, and cymbals. Here is the list of the men who performed this service. From the sons of Asaph: Zachar, Joseph, Nethaniah, and Asarela. The sons of Asaph were under the supervision of Asaph, who prophesied under the king's supervision. As for Jeduthun, from his sons: Gedaliah, Zeri, Jeshaiah, Shimei, Hashabiah, and Mattithiah, 6 in all, under the supervision of their father Jeduthun, who prophesied, using the harp in thanking and praising the Lord. As for Heman, from his sons: Bukiah, Mattaniah, Uzziel, Shubael and Jerimoth, Hananiah, Hanani, Eliathah, Gedalti and Romamtiezer, Joshbekashah, Malothi, Hothar, and Mahaziath. All these were sons of Heman the king's seer. They were given him through the promises of God to exalt him. God gave Heman 14 sons and 3 daughters. All these men were under the supervision of their father for the music of the temple of the Lord, with cymbals, lyres, and harps, for the ministry at the house of God. Asaph, Jeduthun, and Heman were under the supervision of the king. Along with their relatives, all of them trained and skilled in music for the Lord, they numbered 288. Young and old alike, teacher as well as student, cast lots for their duties. The first lot, which was for Asaph, fell to Joseph. His sons and relatives 12. The second to Gedaliah. Him and his relatives and sons 12. The third to Zachar. His sons and relatives 12. The fourth to Isri. His sons and relatives 12. The fifth to Nethaniah. His sons and relatives 12. The sixth to Bukiah. His sons and relatives 12. The seventh to Jezreelah. His sons and relatives 12. The eighth to Jeshaiah. His sons and relatives 12. The ninth to Mattaniah. His sons and relatives 12. The 10th to Shimei. His sons and relatives 12. The 11th to Azarel. His sons and relatives 12. The 12th to Hashabiah. His sons and relatives 12. The 13th to Shubael. His sons and relatives 12. The 14th to Mattithiah. His sons and relatives 12. The 15th to Jerimoth. His sons and relatives 12. The 16th to Hananiah. His sons and relatives 12. The 17th to Joshbekashah. His sons and relatives 12. The 18th to Hanani. His sons and relatives 12. The 19th to Malothi. His sons and relatives 12. The 20th to Eliathah. His sons and relatives 12. The 21st to Hothar. His sons and relatives 12. The 22nd to Gedalti. His sons and relatives 12. The 23rd to Mahaziath. His sons and relatives 12. The 24th to Romamtiezer. His sons and relatives 12. 1 Chronicles, chapter 26. The divisions of the gatekeepers. From the Korahites, Meshelemiah son of Kore, one of the sons of Asaph. Meshelemiah had sons: Zechariah the firstborn, Jediel the second, Zebadiah the third, Jathniel the fourth, Elam the fifth, Jehohanan the sixth, and Elihoenai the seventh. Obed-Edom also had sons: Shemaiah the firstborn, Jehozabad the second, Joah the third, Sakar the fourth, Nethanel the fifth, Amiel the sixth, Issachar the seventh, and Pulathai the eighth. For God had blessed Obed-Edom. Obed-Edom's son Shemaiah also had sons, who were leaders in their father's family because they were very capable men. The sons of Shemaiah, Othni, Rephael, Obed, and Elzabad, his relatives Elihu and Semachiah, were also able men. All these were descendants of Obed-Edom. They and their sons and their relatives were capable men with the strength to do the work, descendants of Obed-Edom, 62 in all. Meshelemiah had sons and relatives, who were able men, 18 in all. Hosea the Merarite had sons, Shimri the first, although he was not the firstborn, his father had appointed him the first, Hilkiah the second, Tabaliah the third, and Zechariah the fourth. The sons and relatives of Hosea were 13 in all. These divisions of the gatekeepers, through their leaders, had duties for ministering in the temple of the Lord, just as their relatives had. Lots were cast for each gate, according to their families, young and old alike. The lot for the east gate fell to Shelemiah. Then lots were cast for his son Zechariah, a wise counselor, and the lot for the north gate fell to him. The lot for the south gate fell to Obed-Edom, and the lot for the storehouse fell to his sons. The lots for the west gate and the Shalaketh gate on the upper road fell to Shuppim and Hosea. Guard was alongside of guard. There were 6 Levites a day on the east, for a day on the north, for a day on the south, and 2 at a time at the storehouse. As for the court to the west, there were 4 at the road and 2 at the court itself. These were the divisions of the gatekeepers who were descendants of Korah and Merari. Their fellow Levites were in charge of the treasuries of the house of God and the treasuries for the dedicated things. The descendants of Ladan, who were Gershonites through Ladan and who were heads of families belonging to Ladan the Gershonite, were Jeheli, the sons of Jeheli, Zetham, and his brother Joel. They were in charge of the treasuries of the temple of the Lord. From the Amramites, the Izharites, the Hebronites, and the Uzzielites. Shubael, a descendant of Gershom son of Moses, was the official in charge of the treasuries. His relatives through Eleazar, Rehabiah his son, Jeshaiah his son, Joram his son, Zichri his son, and Shelomith his son. Shelomith and his relatives were in charge of all the treasuries for the things dedicated by King David, by the heads of families who were the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds, and by the other army commanders. Some of the plunder taken in battle they dedicated for the repair of the temple of the Lord. And everything dedicated by Samuel the seer and by Saul son of Kish, Abner son of Ner, and Joab son of Zeruiah, and all the other dedicated things were in the care of Shelomith and his relatives. From the Israelites, Kenaniah and his sons were assigned duties away from the temple, as officials and judges over Israel. From the Hebronites, Hashabiah and his relatives, 1,700 able men, were responsible in Israel west of the Jordan for all the work of the Lord and for the king's service. As for the Hebronites, Jeriah was their chief according to the genealogical records of their families. In the 40th year of David's reign, a search was made in the records, and capable men among the Hebronites were found at Jazer in Gilead. Jeriah had 2,700 relatives, who were able men and heads of families, and King David put them in charge of the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh for every matter pertaining to God and for the affairs of the king.